Going to take a closer look at the impact of the threats to the Strait of Hormuz. Now, at its narrowest point, the strait's about 33 kilometers wide, but its shipping lanes are even narrower. Iran controls the north side of the strait, while Oman controls the south. An estimated 20% of the world's oil is transported through the waterways. Some of it goes to Europe. Nearly half of China's total crude imports transit the Strait of Hormuz. Qatar also depends heavily on the strait to export its liquefied natural gas. Around 90% of the LNG that passes through the strait heads to Asia, including China. Now, in Europe, countries including France, Germany and Italy source roughly 10% of their oil imports through the Strait of Hormuz. It's a critical maritime choke point. Closing it could potentially remove more than 17 billion barrels of oil from the global market, driving up prices and straining energy supplies. Well, Bueger is a professor of international relations at the University of Copenhagen and author of the book Understanding Maritime Security. He's joining us now from Singapore. So thank you very much indeed for being with us. It seems as though the Strait of Hormuz and the potential threats of its closure have been to some degree integral, but so far on the sidelines of this war that we've been seeing between the US, Israel and Iran. But it does seem to be moving to center stage now.
Absolutely. Let's not forget the Strait of Hormuz is absolutely vital for the world economy. And in many ways, Iran actually de facto has control over the straits, both in terms of kinetic attacks, but also in terms of jamming and spoofing the navigational signals. So we are looking at a very, very complicated situation here at the moment.
Is it to Iran's advantage to have the threat of being able to close it, or is it to its advantage to actually close it, to put that into action?
Well, everyone loses. The world economy loses. Quite obviously, Iran can also not export oil anymore, which is increasingly difficult for the country anyways. De facto, the strait is now closed, and it's very difficult to predict how this can change in the near future if we don't see a major de-escalation from both sides. The mining threat of Iran, quite obviously, is out there. Potentially, Iran has already laid some mines on a smaller scale. But for the shipping industry right now, it's impossible to go through the Strait of Hormuz. And if there are not stronger signals in the near future that they can at least try to go through the strait, then we are looking at a major shipping crisis, which can last weeks, if not months.
And we have seen some confusing signals that have been coming out with regard to the Strait of Hormuz. The US Energy Secretary Chris Wright, I understand, posted I think on X just recently saying that US military escorts were actually taking at least one ship through the strait. Oil prices suddenly stabilized, things seem to get better. Then apparently CENTCOM came out and said, actually, no, we're not doing any escorts at the moment. And all of a sudden the tweet was removed, and again, the market's going to turmoil. So the messaging is key here, but it does seem to be confused.
Absolutely. And let's not forget, navies are not very good in doing these kind of escorts. We have seen this in the Red Sea with the Houthi threat, how difficult it is actually to prevent attacks on shipping. And here we are looking at three different types of threats. We're looking at drones, we're looking at missiles, but we're also looking at speedboats. So it's possible to escort vessels on a very small scale, but this will not resolve the situation. A key variable in all of this is also the insurance industry. And right now, insurance is still available, but it's extremely expensive. And here it calls for state reassurances to actually lower some of the insurance premiums, which reach up to $1 million for a single passage right now. And quite obviously, that is not a feasible situation for the shipping industry to use the strait.
I understand that there's a meeting in Brussels going on at the moment amongst EU member countries. They're discussing the impact of on energy prices, particularly of the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. If this carries on for a significant enough length of time, what do you see the impact being around the world?
Well, we are looking at a major energy supply crisis in Europe. There's also a renewed discussion on reinvesting in nuclear technology, for instance. let's also not forget the dramatic impact on the developing world, small island states, for instance, many of which are fully dependent actually on oil for electricity, desalination, and so on. So this will have a dramatic, or is already having dramatic repercussions around the world. And if we do not see de-escalation attempts very soon, we are looking at an energy crisis that will continue for weeks and months, because let's also not forget the broader trickle-down effect. Even if you would open the strait today, we are looking at port congestions, problems with seafarers, and so on. So whatever happens today will have a longer-lasting consequences in any case.
Christian Bueger, we appreciate you giving us the benefit of your expertise in this. Thank you very much indeed for joining us on Al Jazeera.